Hello everyone and welcome to the first episode of what may be the next more consistent Let's Play that I do. This is Starbound, if you are unaware, a new game from Chucklefish, which is a survival world game, kind of. It could be likened to Terraria very fairly. Give me 1 second, I actually forgot how the layout of the screen was, and it makes more sense for this to be down here. Apologies. Essentially this is along the lines of a Terraria or something like that, where you're going to be going down to planets and being able to mine them, being able to go around and find resources. One big difference is the fact that you have the starship here, and although you start out being out of fuel and your first main quest is to find some fuel, we are actually in a position where once we get fuel going, we can travel around the universe and be able to find a huge number of randomly generated planets, a huge number of places to go and explore and mine and everything. So it is something that serves to be a pretty interesting game in the long term. A couple things to note real quick. First of all, this is in beta right now, so it is not a complete game. There is much to be added, there is much still to be done with the game. Secondly, and possibly more importantly, as updates come through, there may be some character loss, save loss coming through with the updates. If that happens, obviously, well, when it happens, I should say, because it's been pretty much confirmed it will. When it happens, I will probably either work my way back to a reasonably close area to where we were, and jump back in. Or it may also be a situation where I try to get to a point of just showing off new updates and stuff for a while. We are going to try to do a relatively persistent Let's Play as time goes on. But just as a warning, you know, if there is a break of episodes of this for a few days after an update, it's probably me trying to work my character back to a reasonable point compared to where we were when the last video took off. So with all that being said, and 2.5 minutes into the video already, let's get underway here. So first we have a new quest, which is to search our ship's storage for a matter manipulator, essentially showing us about this area here, which is a storage unit where we have a bunch of different stuff. We have our matter manipulator, which is our first tool. We have a flashlight, useful if we're going underground. We've got this broken phoenix sword, which is our first weapon. We've got some seeds, feather crown seeds, and wheat seeds, and we've got a torch. So that's our first quest complete. Yay, we can now manipulate matter. So our next goal is to make a crafting table. Also, I should come over here real quick. We've got this computer, which is a 3D printer. Essentially, we can scan items and then use our currency or pixels to print out objects that we are wanting to. We've got this store here, which also leads up to our control panel, which, if we were not out of fuel, would allow us to go to various different places. Also, this is Alpha Kappa 1. If you are a viewer of Twitch, I find that rather amusing for certain reasons. That usually is used to mean sarcasm, sorry. Jump boost? Okay, well, I just found something random that I've never seen before. It has apparently given me increased jumping ability. Let's see what our matter manipulator can do here. 6 pixels. Now, the first world that I jumped into was a bunch of giant mushrooms. I do apologize, there seems to be a bit of frame rate skipping going on right now. That is not something I encountered when I was playing and not recording. It's not so bad to where I'm super concerned about it, but it is something where I figured I would just apologize for it. Now, cutting down trees and such is kind of an arduous process, at least here in the early game. Presumably you can get better matter manipulators, or you can get an axe or something that's going to allow you to chop down trees more effectively. But as it stands, getting your first few trees chopped down, which is obviously important to get wood, which is a very basic resource, it takes a really long time. You kind of have to stand here. There's really no point to moving this around like I am. I just do it so that there's something to do in the downtime. But it is a very slow process to take down a tree. I don't think there is any way to speed that up in the current, at least with the current matter manipulator. But like I said, I do imagine that probably later in the game you can get better quality equipment that's going to make this a lot quicker, if other games of the type are to be connected. So we've already got 51 wood, which is quite a bit actually, but we're going to chop down these last couple of trees here. The first environment I spawned when I started up a save just to get kind of familiar with the controls and everything was actually a giant mushroom world, where it took me a while to find any trees because most of what I was finding were giant mushrooms. The scenery is really nice in this game, although right now it looks like there are a bunch of giant brains in the background, and that is kind of creepy in a way. There should not be giant brains growing on the landscape of a planet, but whatever, it happens I guess. But okay, I think we've got enough wood now where we'll be able to last for a while. These look like enemies. Enemies are usually pretty easy to pick out. Unfortunately, we have no ranged weapon just yet, and I don't want to just kind of jump in there at them. So, actually, we have no way to get back up here either. So what we are going to do, since we have the ability to, is we are going to beam up to our ship using that little button there. Then we can beam back down to the planet, and when we do, we'll be back at that initial spawn point. It won't be where we left off on the planet, it's going to be at the initial spawn. So you do want to remember that when you are setting up settlements or whatever, that you are going to have to be a little bit aware. Okay, just got a really bad lag spike there, but it's OBS, quite frankly. And one thing I am still getting used to is the fact that unlike in Terraria, which I've been playing a lot of, you can't just use your shift key to automatically go to a tool that would work for what you're trying to work on. So I can't just use shift to automatically go to my matter manipulator when I want to grab stuff. One of the next quests is going to be to make a bow, which is going to use plant fibers gained from cutting down weeds like this. Oh god. The controls can be a bit touchy at times, I've noticed. When you're trying to jump or otherwise move, sometimes you will encounter situations where you move faster than you're initially expecting to. Not that there's a problem with moving quickly, but it is something to be aware of in terms of overall getting used to the controls of the game at first. It is something that you're probably going to take a little while to get used to. Obviously there is going to be a day and night cycle in the game. Wow, got really framey there. All those trees being on screen did not good things. Hey look, it's a giant mushroom. Okay, so let's see now. Oh, that's an enemy, that's an enemy, that's an enemy. Get my sword out. Slice, slice, slice. Okay. One thing to note as well is that you are going to face whatever direction your mouse cursor is in. So you can like walk away from, and you can walk away from something and hit. But you can't just turn to face another direction by hitting the directional key. You actually have to... You know what, I don't think these things are actually enemies, but I'm just killing them because they're here now. But yeah, you are actually kind of needing to move your mouse cursor if you want to change your facing direction. You can turn it with the arrow key. What do we have here? Looks like a mailbox? Ooh. Shroom table blueprint. And some flares. Okay. So I will work on trying to figure out exactly how I can go about kind of lowering the framiness. I know it's been an issue with some of my recordings for a while now. I'm still not sure exactly why that is when some things that are no more intensive work perfectly fine. So one thing to note here with our matter manipulator is that it's not affecting one block at a time, it's affecting 4 blocks at a time. So when you're trying to mine stone or such, it goes a little bit quicker than when you're trying to mine a tree, I guess. But you're also going to get less payout from the amount of stone that you're mining. than you do when you are mining wood. So we are slowly kind of collecting some stuff. I think we got some cobblestone, some copper. We're starting to get a little bit hungry as well. So let's see, we're going to come over this way a little bit. And do we see anything coming up? Not really. You can also take care of walls. If you hold right click, you hit whatever's in the background. Front click is only going to hit foreground objects. Those guys look not friendly. Not friendly. They looked friendly. They are not friendly. Death is definitely something that happens in this game. Although, if you hold click to attack, you can generally get away with just kind of spam attacking them and using knockback, at least in the early game here. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to make our crafting table here near the spawn. So first things first, we're going to scroll through our requirements here, and we see crafting table. We need 35 wood planks. Each of these that we make on each wood plank is going to be 3 of them per 1 unrefined wood. So if we want to make 35 of them, we are going to want to make 12. So, yes, I know, Norden. Numlock wasn't on. Yes, it was, but okay, there we go. So yeah, so we're going to want to make 12 of them to make 36. So we type in 12, hit craft, and we've got them. Now we can make our crafting table, which was our quest if you recall. We get a reward for it, and it will give us a wider range of stuff to make. So we are starting to be hungry, so we need to get some meat. Now, one of the things that I'm not too sure how I feel about with this game just yet is the fact that to get meat, you have to kill enemies with a bow. You know, I'm not the best with using the bow yet, which is part of the problem, but it's also nowhere near as strong as your sword, especially starting out here. And so this hunting bow that we can make, we have well over enough requirements for. We are going to open up our inventory with I. Put this, we'll replace the torches and move everything else over 1. And we will move this copper ore into our inventory. Also, we can pull up our quest log here to see what's going on. As well as some various other things, like we have our inventory, which has a hotkey. We've got setting, we got crafting, which is C. We've got a magnifying glass that'll tell us what we are looking at. We've got a book that kind of tells a story of our character. So we got that, we got our beam up to the ship button, and we got our quest journal. So all of those are things that you can make use of. But as I was saying, to get meat to eat, you have to kill the enemy with a bow. Now, as far as I know, it does not matter if the last hit, and if all the hits are with a bow, as long as the last hit is with a bow. So, oh god, we're gonna die here. We're gonna have our first death. We're not gonna get any meat out of it. Yep, there we go. There we go, first death. So now we get this cool little burst scene where we see ourselves being reborn, starting as an egg, turning into a little chick, and then hopping around for a while before we grow up into the full-size person we are today. As far as I can tell, it doesn't matter if you do all your damage with the bow. As long as you get that last hit with the bow, it seems to be able to get meat from it. So that is an important thing to note, that getting meat is not easy. There are alternatives. You can grow crops, you can eat fruits and such that you find in the area around you. But at the same time, it is not going to be something where it is going to be easy to get meat. So as you see, this little blue bar up here is our breath meter. If we stay underwater too long, we're going to obviously drown. I don't want to aggro that other guy. And I did aggro him. Oh god. Don't die again. And see what I mean by the bow not being the easiest thing to deal with? Because a lot of enemies are going to charge at you like that. And if they hit you, it knocks you out of your charging of the bow. So, you know, if you get hit by an enemy charging at you before you have your bow charged up enough to do enough damage to be meaningful, you pretty much just get stuck and unable to react in time. So it is kind of frustrating trying to get meat, Honestly, it seems like the easier path is to grow food, although I can't say that I have experience in that just yet, so I can't say for sure if that's the case. But you know, with the fully charged bow shot, we did 17 damage, which isn't a whole lot. There we got 20. Another 20. Oh god. Stay away. Maybe it is you have to hit him all the way with the bow, because we didn't get meat from that last one, obviously. God damn it. And see how little damage we do with the bow if it's not charged up fully. It does give a little blink when it's fully charged, so you know it is. But if you don't have enough space between you and the enemy, then it can be a big problem. So we do have one alien meat, which I believe we need to make a campfire and cook to complete this quest. And we have these bugs who are going to shoot at us. You know what, I just want to use my sword, I don't need meat from them. And we will have a much better chance of survival if I use my sword, because it does a lot more damage and does knockback. So anyway, now we're back here. We're going to craft a campfire. This is going to take 5 unrefined wood and 1 torch. Easy enough to make. So we open up our inventory, place that there. It should be noted that even though I'm playing this in single player, I have not found any way to pause the game. It doesn't seem like there is actually an option for allowing to pause. So it does seem like you are kind of, if you want, you cannot pause. So if you aren't in a safe place, you are going to have trouble. So now in order to cook the meat, we're actually going to use the campfire, and then we can drag it over here. However many we have, it'll have a set cook timer for each. And then we make cooked meat. We accept our reward for completing the quest. Now we need to get a furnace. You'll need to obtain some cobblestone, a campfire, and some coal. If you'd like to know exactly how much of each you need, untick crafting materials available, so we'll show this off. So if you look here, we can tick materials available, which is going to show us what we can make actively with what we currently have. If we untick that, then we can see that to make a stone furnace, we need 1 campfire and 25 cobblestone. Contrary to the little quest indicator, we don't actually need any coal to make a furnace. We aren't going to eat that meat just yet, by the way. We can actually save that till we're a little bit hungrier. I don't see any reason why not to. And we're going to look for some cobblestone. It might be wise to use our flashlight, because there is some right there that I would have otherwise missed. So we do have that flashlight. We also, of course, have torches. The torches can be placed to automatically to leave light behind, whereas the flashlight is going to be kind of if you're just exploring a cave and you don't necessarily want to have everything use up the materials to leave torches everywhere. You can make it a little bit easier by using a flashlight, which I foresee myself doing quite often. I know that, again, just a quick comparison to Terraria. Once I got once I got swords that were providing light for me, or weapons that were providing light for me, I tended to, instead of using a bunch of torches, I would instead just use my weapon, because that made it a little bit easier to move through without using a ton of resources. So now, with enough cobblestone, we are going to go back to our camp here, which is very small at the moment. And what we are actually going to want to do, I don't know if this is actually necessary, but I would like to go to our resource bag over here, where we have a dirt block, and I'm just going to place this right here to extend the landscape a little bit. I'm not sure how much room the furnace is actually going to take, but that'll make things a little bit easier. I do want to make another campfire so I can leave the one that I have there down. I don't know if it's required to have that to cook things. I don't know if you can use the furnace to cook them, but now we have made a furnace. So next we need to get you some armor. Working with metal requires an anvil, but before we can craft one, you'll need to melt some iron ore. Obtain 2 times iron ore and smelt it in a furnace to obtain an iron bar. So now here's where things get a little bit more difficult, I guess you would say. I don't know where we keep track, where our hunger is kept track of. Health is 100, stamina is 100. I don't know if there is actually a way to actively look at your hunger, but I think eating heals us. So let's go ahead and use this cooked meat. Oop. How exactly I'm going to do that, I don't know. Maybe I need to put it on my hotbar to use it, which is kind of weird considering everything else isn't the case. There we go. We ate it. It did not heal us, actually. So now we're going to set off on our quest to find some iron ore, which is not going to be the easiest thing to do. One thing about this game is that it certainly ramps up in difficulty of finding materials quickly. Oh god. That was very sudden. You know, if you've played something like Terraria, even Minecraft, 1 second, apologies. You know that when it comes to finding the early materials, they're usually pretty easy to pick out. You don't have to work too hard to get them. And that allows you to get a nice, like, smooth progression going on. That thing looks dangerous as well. Let's try shooting it with our bow. 15 damage. That thing is level 4. We are presumably level 1. We are definitely using level 1 equipment. But this thing is actually using a relatively predictable pattern, and it doesn't seem to be too interested in attacking us all that much. It seems to just kind of attack at times and then go away. We didn't actually get any meat from killing that, although it was a higher level enemy, which is unfortunate. Oh god, what are those things? If you haven't been able to hear the music all that well, I think you should have been able to. But, yeah, I very much enjoy the music. It is very atmospheric. It makes the game feel right, I guess is the best way to say it. So that is definitely a high point of this early beta. And we're going to kind of wander around here. I guess we should open up our flashlight. See if we can... Excuse me for that burp. See if we can see any signs of iron. Like I was saying, it seems like the materials kind of ramp up in difficulty to find very quickly. What we can do here actually to get back up is we can use a wood block like here, I would say. Hope I need to be closer to plant that there. Oh, it needs to be attached to something. Okay. So we can make a little bit of a wood platform here, which will allow us to get back up, because I actually want to go back over here where we found some copper, and I'm just going to mine out some copper, which is going to take a while. As mentioned, I do find that the time it takes for these early materials to break through things is a bit excessive. You know, it's one thing to make it take a little while, but there's also a certain degree of it taking so long that it makes it more tedious than it needs to be to mine early game materials. I mean, you know, obviously it does take time to mine stuff, but should it really take you a long time to mine a piece of cobblestone or to use an advanced matter manipulator to cut down a tree? Those type of things, it seems like it is a little bit going overboard on making things difficult for gameplay convention instead of making them a little bit more reasonable. You know, maybe you could argue that an axe is actually a better way to take down a tree. So if you got an axe, maybe it would be quicker. But at the same time, you know, you got this high-tech technology, and it's taking you a significant amount of time to even mine through a small chunk of cobblestone, which I do find a bit strange. I wish that the early game mining would go a little bit faster. You know, it's not super slow, it's just slow enough where it becomes a little bit more of a chore. It is good that it lets you do 4 spaces at once. It does kind of allow for a little bit more distance, But I also kind of wish that it allowed you to mine one space at once and make it much more effective. Maybe it would balance out in time in the end, but if you do one space at a time, as I'm doing now, you can see it's not any more effective than what we were doing with 4 spaces at a time. So there's really no benefit to mining one space at a time unless you're just trying to avoid disrupting a block that you didn't want to move. I feel like that would be a good way to kind of balance out not making materials too easy to mine as a group early on, so that you could just, dig through a planet easily, but also to allow you to get some materials a little bit quicker. If you just wanted one block of something, you could just mine one block and it would go faster, or you could mine multiple blocks, which would go slower but get you obviously more material. I feel like that would be a relatively decent way to make use of what is already implemented in the game. There's a chest over there. I can get to that pretty easily. That's a big chest. I've only seen small ones so far. I do, however, like this matter manipulator gives a little bit of light in the area that you are trying to mine. It definitely makes things a little bit easier to keep track of when you're mining. You don't need to have a flashlight or a torch out. You can just have your mining device actually give you the light that you need to see what you're mining in your progress. Also, the cracking graphic is very useful. Let's see, we found Sloppy Whacker, a crappy hammer. Sounds about right. Damage per swing 38. What we've got now is 28, but it's 1.92 swing speed versus 0.9. So, if you give me a second to get out of the water here so I don't drown, if we look at this logically, this hammer is going to do 38 damage with 0.9 swing speed. So it's going to swing once per 0.9 for 38 damage on average. And this one is going to swing once per 1.92 times per second, or whatever the case may be. And it's going to do 28 damage per swing. So if we swing this on average 2.12, we swing it like a little bit over 2 times as fast for 28 damage per swing, we're going to do 2 times 28 and a little bit more in a time that takes us to 1 times 38. So I don't really see any benefit to this hammer. Let me just make sure that I'm understanding that right. So this is our swing speed with the sword. This is our swing speed with the hammer. So yeah, the sword is definitely much quicker. So that hammer seems like it is something for kind of sales bait almost. It doesn't seem like there's much reason to use that as an actual weapon, which is kind of odd. But if we come back here and use our furnace, we've got 12 copper ore. Not sure how much it's going to take to make 1 bar, but we can smelt our copper ore, which is going to take 2 per bar. And that's going to make us a solid 6 ore and 6 bars. But there's nothing that we can really do with that yet. If we go to the crafting table, the anvil that we have to make is made of iron. And that's what's required for metalworking. So really right now, using this iron ore that we have, or iron bars that we have, we can't really do anything. I'm not sure what smelting bars would do. I don't want to try it. What does smelting coal do? Nothing. Okay. But yeah, so I mean, in terms of that, we do need to find iron. And otherwise we can't make any progression, which does kind of complicate things. Let's just real quick drop down in this hole here, see if we see anything that looks like iron. Maybe that? It's taking a while to mine, so it is some type of ore, presumably. Let's see what happens. And that was iron ore. Okay. So now we have an idea of what iron ore looks like. We can kind of shine our flashlight through these blocks a bit to look for more of it. We do have a couple enemies. We're just going to kind of stand back and swing our sword. The other one is down there. Okay, so we can easily kill enemies with our sword. That is the trade-off, as mentioned. If you want to get food, you have to use the bow, which is generally pretty difficult to use. If you want to just get the kill and you aren't against getting pixels out of it, which is currency, and as mentioned, using crafting, I think I mentioned that, then you're going to want to use your sword, because it is going to do a lot more damage and a lot more effectively. I don't really see any caves leading off of this one that are noticeably visible from where we're at. So it looks like we are not going to be getting our iron down here. Let's go back up this way. Okay, there is an animal there that we might be able to kill for some meat. Missed that shot horribly. Oh god, he's one of the fast ones. That was a bad idea. Maybe that guy I can? He is also fast. And I am still horrible with this bow. I feel like I am getting a little bit better, especially now that I realize that you don't have to shoot when it blinks to do decent damage. It does give you more damage if you shoot when it blinks, but okay, that clearly hit him and didn't do anything. So that could be attributed to this game still being in beta, I think, because I'm pretty sure that I saw that arrow visibly go into the enemy and then just not do anything. Regardless, that's going to cut it for our first episode of Starbound. I hope you guys have enjoyed this. I know there were some frame rate drops earlier. It seemed to get a little bit more steady as time went on. So hopefully that'll be what'll keep up. Real quick, can we put this into here? Shroom table blueprint? What do we do with this? Wait, that's the storage locker. Do we put tech? No. 3D printer. Okay, I don't really know how to use a 3D printer. Regardless, that's going to do it for our first episode here. I hope you have enjoyed this first look. I know there are probably going to be a lot of people doing series on this game. And hopefully I was entertaining enough to make you want to see more of mine. I do intend to play a lot of this game going forward. I know I usually don't play very much of games that are in beta or such stages. This one has a lot of content though, and the only thing that's going to be added is, and the things that are going to be added are more so, you know, are going to be more of a more stuff to find type of thing than it's going to be discovering how stuff works. You know, when I play stuff like roguelikes, like Our Darker Purpose, which I didn't play very much, and still haven't played very much on the channel at the moment, you know, some of the fun of that game is discovering what the items do. So jumping into them when they are earlier in alpha, or in beta, or whatever the case may be, kind of puts you in a position where you're taking some of the fun out of the final product early on. With a game like this, I don't think that's the case. I think that the only thing that's going to be to do later on is more exploration, more discovery, stuff that is not going to change by virtue of having played some. As mentioned, there may be character losses, in which case I will recreate things and start back over, and get things up to par for the series, or just jump back in at the beginning if I think that's wise. So you can expect some lapses in content at times. I'm not sure when the first of those will happen, but I assume it'll be at least a little while. Yeah, thank you guys for watching as always. Hope you enjoyed, and I will see you on the next episode. Take care, everyone, and have a good one.